how to speak well, so that you come across sounding like a genius, so that you make more sales, so that you get a girlfriend, and so that your life can be better than it already is. And I'm going to give you 5 ways that you can instantly speak better. Now, I want you to take note of what I'm about to say. Every day when I make videos, don't know what are trying to, do you understand? The very first thing that you don't know how to do is you do not know how to cut out filler words. So this extends not just to saying and ah. It extends to things like saying like. It extends to things like actually saying that you are like, going to like talk actually in a good way, basically. Cut out all these filler words. I'm going to give you an example. There was a girl who like actually basically wanted to get this guy because he kind of like basically actually certainly had money. Compare that to, there was a girl and she knew this guy and she wanted to be with him because he had money. Can you see, you've got to take out the filler words, are, certainly, basically, actually, surely. Take it all out, cut out any and all stops, because it gives your speaking a good pace. And that leads me on to the second thing that you've got to focus on. Now, the second way that you can speak well is you've got to increase the pace of what you say. Instead of saying, there was a person, and they did this, and they did that, and it takes 5 minutes to say that there was a person who went to the shops, and she was a girl who met this rich guy, who then got in a Ferrari and went home and did the deed. Can you see? Why does it have to take 5 minutes when you can say it like that? So that's the most important thing. We've talked about removing filler words, but you've got to increase the pace of what you say. Let me tell you a story. So there's a religious leader, let's say he's a rabbi. Okay, he's a rabbi in a synagogue. And when he's giving his speech, he wants to tell people that money is the root of all evil, for example, and that they should focus on acting humbly and that they should give charity. But what he does is he doesn't just give the message and then move on. This rabbi in the synagogue would like to give a long speech. And so he tells people how money was the root of this person and how they got lucky when they won the lottery, but then they fell into heinous actions and blah, blah, blah. Instead of just getting direct to the point, and the rabbi of the synagogue telling you, money is the root of all evil, you should not have any money because we want you to be humble and you should pray at all moments, at all times. That's an illustration to show you that you've got to keep the pace going, deliver the value, and move on. And that leads into my third one. If you want to know how to speak well, forget about what you're saying for a moment and think about your life. The only reason I make sense is because I can tell you stories from my life. For example, I've been inside of a township. I've trained cycling every single day to the point where I was so vascular and skinny that I couldn't even walk effectively. I couldn't run fast because I was so tiny. Literally, I was like a skin. Not a skin, I was like a stick. And the wind was able to blow me because I was so small. So I have a life experience. And this is the third thing that would make you speak better. You have to have a life lived. You have to have made approaches to women and said, hey, how are you doing? And then had them just blindly ignore you. You have to have gone into dangerous situations, walking at night, inside townships. I live in South Africa, the most dangerous country in the world. You have to have a life lived so that when you speak, you don't have to have a script. You don't have to plan what you say. You can just go boom into it and tell a story that means something to you. See this on my face? This is testimony to the fact that I persevere, that I have lived a life. Back when I was younger, I had a good friend named Josh. Now, when it comes to telling the story, you always include the name. That's another tip for you. Because if you include the name, it means you own the story. And so with this Josh character, he loved his dog, named Picasso. And it was a vicious Labrador. And so when I was younger, Josh came with me. I used to have arrangements every Friday. And he said, look, I want you to kiss the dog. Let's kiss the dog. Let's cuddle the dog. He loved his dog, Picasso. And so I went in for the kiss. First one, fine. He said, kiss it again. Kissed it. I didn't hear the growl. And then, just like that, on my face. And so the reason you even care about that story is because it's a life lived. There's risk to that story. Did I die? Could I have died? I was young. I was literally 6 years old and my face got mauled by the dog. You know what Josh did? Blood dripping all over the floor. Gory, disgusting. He took a kitchen towel and gave it to me to put it on my face to stop all that blood. And so if you want to speak better, you have to have an engaging story to tell. And I heard it said very well by another YouTuber. I don't know who his name is. He said, not only do you need to have life lived, because a lot of people have lived life, they've done crazy things, but they don't take cognizance of their own experiences. And so when you say, tell me something interesting about yourself, they say, I work as a salesman, or I clean the floors for my restaurant. Do you see? They haven't lived a life. And even if they have, they aren't taking cognizance. So the third way to speak better is live a life and take cognizance of your life. And I heard, as I said, what that YouTuber told me was that every single day there's something that happens. Take note of when you feel an emotion. Today I asked the lady, may I please have a cup of tea? And she just said yes. And I'll have tea right here, which is thank you so much to the lady who made me tea. But it was so heartwarming the way she looked at me and smiled, and the way that I looked at her and I smiled, and then I said, may I please have tea? And so that was an emotion. And every day, if you can just take cognizance and take note of when you feel an emotion, then you will have gained 365 stories by the end of the year. And that would inform you as to how to speak better and how to make your stories more engaging. I've spoken at length about this little boy, but I want to say it again. So there was this little boy who was busy inside. I don't know what he was doing. Maybe playing video games or something like that. This is in America. Let's just say in Atlanta or on a ranch in Texas. And what happened was he heard loud screaming. He heard his sister screech. And he quickly turned his head. He said, what's going on? He ran outside just to find out that there was a bulldog, a vicious bulldog, mauling his sister, trying to kill his sister. He immediately ran out and got in between the sister and the dog and pried the dog apart from his sister, saving her. She almost died, but he saved her sister. And so that little kid was interviewed on a television series. I think it was CBNC or something like that. And what happened was, he's a young kid, 6 or 7. He saved his sister. And he didn't know how to speak. He didn't know what to say. But because he lived life, he said, my sister, she was about to die and I saved her. And so that made everybody's heart melt. It made you and I, made me want to watch him and find out, where does the story end? Who is this guy? Who is this literal superhuman individual? A superhero who saved his sister. So that leads me on to the fourth way that you can speak better. We've spoken about having a life lived, but this little boy illustrates it's not about having a life lived. It's perhaps about having an interesting story to tell and being someone who's a hero. Let's say we bring Nelson Mandela. People believe Nelson Mandela is a hero, and I believe that. He saved the South African people and liberated the masses so that now we can all live in harmony, in peace as the rainbow nation in South Africa. Now, it doesn't matter what he says. It matters that it's him. Just to go back to that little boy, it doesn't matter what that boy says. He's only 6 or 7. I don't believe he can even tell a good story because he's too young to even take cognizance of how to speak well and blah, blah, blah. It's because of who he is. Just like Nelson Mandela can come into this room right now and speak to you and you'd listen irregardless of what he says because it is who he is. So it leads from point number 3, which is that you need to have a life lived. But once you've lived a life, you develop your character. And so that's what you need to develop, your character. For me, I do it through strength. So that I can sit here and this guy, he trains every day. He has that beast mode instinct. But it's because of the character, and that's why you listen. But there's one more crucial aspect that you could be forgetting when it comes to speaking. And I hope that you maybe paid attention and you know what it is. But the 5th thing that would take your speeches from being rubbish to being, wow, let's march, let's listen to this guy, is the fact that you don't include stories. When I speak, I love telling a story. When I was younger, I used to do public speaking in school. And the first few speeches I did were just listing out facts. The reason that the Eiffel Tower is made out of steel is because this designer in the 18th century developed like this and he met Christopher Williamsbury. No one cares about facts. People care about a story. And what happened was, after the first 3 or 4 speeches, I started to learn, let me include a story, because people listen when it's a true story. And so I started to tell them about how I nearly failed English in school, and how I studied every night, how I cried myself to sleep. And that made my speeches go from nothing to being something. Because instead of telling people facts, everyone can find facts. Everyone can find out, if you want to get German, you want to go to gym and get big, you've got to drink protein shakes, eat protein, train muscle. No one cares about that. But people care about the story about a kid who was nearly anorexic like me, cycling every day. And he became so vascular and so skinny, as I said, like a stick that could be blown in the wind. And then he went from that and he started eating protein shakes and bulking, and then he got big until the point where he got a 6-pack and he, put on an extra 5 to 10 kilos. People care about the story. So if you want to know how to speak better, I want you to forget about telling people facts or telling people the moral of the lesson. Fact, fact, fact. Tell people a story. And that, my friend, is how you can speak like a pro.